I don't know how many of you know this, but there's a school shooting in Seattle recently.
One count of murder in the first degree.
A judge agreed to find probable cause in the case of a 14-year-old arrested. He's accused of shooting and killing an Ingram High School student. These proceedings are happening a day after this.
It's horrifying when you're here and you can't do anything.
A chaotic scene outside of this campus. The timeline is still terrifying for the students and parents who lived it. Just before 10 a.m. on Tuesday, Seattle police say they received reports of a shooting in North Seattle. The gunfire happening inside Ingram High School. Officers arrived, entered the school, and found one student with a gunshot wound. As medics moved in to help, the campus went into lockdown with police searching for the shooter. Shortly after 11 a.m., police provided the update: a person in custody. Sky King was overhead as officers arrested a 14-year-old in connection with the shooting. Today, he waived his first court appearance.
Based off what we have so far from Seattle police investigators, and this case is still ongoing, we believe that there was probable cause for first-degree murder, which is premeditated.
The prosecuting attorney's office says a 15-year-old who was allegedly with the 14-year-old and in possession of a firearm is in custody too. His parents told the judge what he's being accused of is not like him at all.
Nobody's ever been in trouble before.
As for the teenager who lost his life, the prosecutor explained the grief from that tragedy is why his family was not in this room today.
I was told that the victim's mother had recently been admitted to the emergency room last night due to circumstances potentially surrounding yesterday's incident.
The two teens have no previous cases with the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. That office does expect to receive more information from Seattle Police by Monday. After that, that office can file a charging decision.
And I'll say the same thing that I've said about any other school shooting. I don't care about the home life. I don't care about the school life. I don't care if you was rejected. I don't care how many video games you play. None of that is a reasonable excuse to pick up a gun and willingly take somebody else's life. And I hope karma gives you what you deserve, and I take no pity on you. But while parents are trying to figure out where their kids are and vice versa, and everybody's in a panic, and everybody's trying to make sure that everybody's accounted for at the school, you have a teacher who works there conveniently posting this on the same day as the midterm elections, letting you know that this situation revolving around gun violence and school shootings can and will stop. All we got to do is vote for the progressives in the elections. This is a picture of my students and I in lockdown today after a student with a gun shot another student multiple times in the hall about 50 yards from my classroom. That poor kid is dead. My students were amazing in this horrible situation. I did okay too. But this shouldn't have happened at all. Our unwillingness as a nation to do anything about our gun problem is maddening and psychotic. If you didn't vote blue today, fuck you. The only way to stop this madness is to vote progressive so that we can have a minuscule chance to change gun laws in this country. I am in the anger stage of grief at the moment. I'm not going to argue about this. I'm done. As a teacher, I've been done for years on this topic, but now it's happening to me personally, and I'm raging. Guns are the problem. Period. And I will not sit here and tell this individual that he doesn't have a right to be upset. When you're in that situation, you have every right to be scared, in tears, in a panic, pissed off. These are absolutely viable and acceptable reactions to being on lockdown because a school shooter is 50 yards away from you. The issue I have is the political hysteria around this topic and seemingly thinking that, oh, if we vote blue and we vote for the progressives, this situation has a chance to stop overall. It does not. I'm sorry to break it to anybody, whether if you're a Democrat, Libertarian, Conservative, far left, far right, Republican, whatever these political terms you want to affiliate with. This problem with school shootings and gun violence is really not going to stop because this is more than just who's in charge in your Congress offices. This is about people and how psychotic they are. Whether if you go to a Democratic city or a Republican city, there's going to be crime. There's going to be gun violence. Yes, you can pull up your statistics to say, oh, it happens more here than it does here. It's still a problem. And if you're not going to come to an actual solution with the people you have in office, nothing's ever going to change. People are going to be more desensitized to it. People are going to just say, oh, well, it's another school shooting. Let's everybody talk about how ARs are the problem. Let's everybody talk about how Call of Duty is obviously the reason this happened. Let's pick and choose which ones matter. And let's just say, oh, this happened. Let's blame the cops. Let's make another excuse. And let's just throw it all out the woodwork.
Parents of Ethan Crumbly found out that they were going to be charged as well for the horrific acts of their son. What did? They went on the lam. They took $4,000 cash out of an ATM, turned their phones off, and literally tried to escape to Canada. Who does that? Their 15-year-old boy is sitting in a jail cell, and they just take off to leave him to fend for himself? I mean, we know they're Trump supporters. The mom wrote a glowing letter to Trump where she literally asked him to grab her by her kitty cat. How much you want to bet these people are unvaccinated and never wear masks? It's obvious they don't care about anyone but themselves. You know, the Republican Party used to call themselves the party of family values. Nice values.
There's no solving this unless people actually sit down and say, we got a problem, let's brainstorm ideas. Just voting out people really isn't going to do it. I know I'm the person who advocates for getting rid of Lori Lightfoot, but if the person, whether if it's a Democrat or a Republican, doesn't come in and actually tries to make a change, things are still going to happen because the person in charge is not doing anything about it. If people aren't willing to lead and they just want to make excuses, you're going to have these school shootings happening more and more. You're going to have gun violence being a topic that gets brought up and ignored more and more because instead of people who are supposed to be leaders making a difference, they're just blaming other people. They're blaming citizens for not having security cameras.
I'm disappointed that they're not doing more to take safety and make it a priority.
Lightfoot is catching some heat over the comments. Carr says she's, quote, sadly misinformed.
You can't, as she suggested a couple weeks ago, buzz everyone in and out through a door. Retail doesn't work that way. You can't put everything behind lock and key or a glass case.
Some high-end stores along the Gold Coast have hired security guards to usher in customers one at a time because of videos like this, where a handful of criminals come in at a time. In this case, the theft ring made off with over $100,000 worth of Louis Vuitton items.
The National Retail Federation reported that these types of crimes, organized retail crimes, have increased over 60% in the last 5 years.
Retailers aren't the only ones who see the fallout from this. It also means millions aren't coming in from sales tax for Chicago and the state of Illinois.
We still have retailers that won't institute plans like having security officers in their stores, making sure that they've got cameras that are actually operational.
Or there'll be random people blaming a random transgender across the country for another school shooting. You will never solve these issues that you care about so deeply with your political hysteria. You solve them by collecting all your information and bringing it to the table and talking with others on a way that is healthy and constructive so that nobody has to wake up, go on Twitter and hear about another school shooting. I know it's pie in the sky thinking on my part, but at least that's a better option than just blindly thinking that if you vote Democrat or Republican, all your issues are going to magically go away. Because at the end of the day, there are slimy human beings who don't care about the law, who don't care about rules, and they're called criminals who will do anything necessary to gain what they want at the risk of other people's lives. And if you're not willing to admit that, welcome to being desensitized about everything that gets put on Twitter. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.